Hi everyone. So today I'm gonna express into words what I felt, I experienced, where I felt something change inside me, which the literature seems to point towards something labeled as awakening, spiritual awakening. So we already went through all the layers of ego that are somehow clustering the identity of the self that we cannot see. And those are coming from conditioning, thought thing that we are told repeatedly when we're young, either to adulthood or through adulthood as well, from the media, our friend or family or teachers, mass media, internet, and everything. And so it's just like a perception of reality that is different. And when on the path of the spiritual journey, we are starting to follow more our intuition of instead of mainstream conditioning. So instead of listening to what society wants us to be, like for instance, having a family, working hard, studying hard, making money, and all this stuff. Not that there's a problem with it, but just that if we feel empty, if we're not happy, we feel depressed, that there's a different way to live, which we're not told when we are blinded by mainstream conditioning. And so, what it means is that there's a process of peeling off what I feel. So these are like simplified version of this one. So the true self is here, and there's many layers, and there are layers of information that we are integrating as our identity, as our belief, and they're cluster and kind of blind us from perceiving true reality. And as we, for instance, we start traveling and realize that there's other way to live, there's other way to be respectful, there's other way to exist, which can be frightening and overwhelming and kind of provocating and triggering for our conditioning. Um, but if we stay long enough, we realize that it's not bad necessarily. I don't know. For instance, it could appear that crossing the red light, an intersection is criminal and it should be forbidden. But what if there's nobody around and then we're still waiting? It's 2 a.m., there's nobody around, or we live in a rural area and we're so conditioned to follow the rules that we believe that if we're crossing a red light, even if there's no danger, even if we're careful, we look left and right, and then we get arrested or we get blame or shame from our neighbor, from somebody who sees us. And there's other country where people are just careful, or if there's a pothole in the street or in the sidewalk or in the private land of somebody and we hurt ourselves, in the West we think about who can I blame, who can I put responsible and sue for the mistake of my only responsibility. And because this kind of law doesn't exist in third world country, it's the responsibility of the person who walks that has to be attentive to the environment, to the danger and everything. And so the responsibility in us. And so there's no system that's one is better than the other. Of course, people in poor country do get injured either by crossing an intersection without looking or by a pothole. But it's just a different system. It's a system without rules, formal rules, and usually we use common sense or being trying to be respectful instead of um, congesting everything with multiple rules about a way to act in every circumstances. And then there's the law, and then there's judge to cut in defending who is right from wrong. But in the West, if you fall into a hole and you hurt yourself and you try to draft a complaint at police station, they might laugh at you. If you have enough money and try to sue the person, the judge might not even understand why you're here in the first place. So it's just a different reality, and we have to understand that it's good to be protected. It's good to be protected against people or even society or government that are negligent, but at the same time it just brings more awareness and responsibility into the self instead of relying onto authorities or other people. And so what happened is that, for instance, it's not always just with traveling, but when we are encountering a different reality, a different culture, a say for instance you grow up in a really dogmatic religion, and somehow you go out of that religion because it doesn't fulfill you, maybe because your parent push you to follow this path, and then you never resonated, and eventually you reach teenagerhood or young adulthood and you're ready to step out of it, and then you realize in the whole world is functioning in a different way. Maybe there's pros and cons where you were brought up, and you realize there's other pros and cons outside of the religion, and then it's your choice to decide which path you want to take. And as we're peeling off those layers of belief, of way to do things that we believe are the only way, then eventually we feel lighter. And what I feel happened to me is that before I was blinded by my ego, by my belief, by my way of thinking. And after I thought I lost my ego for some time. It didn't took too long for me to realize I was still dragging it. So like here, but I feel a huge difference. I feel that I was dragging my ego. So I still carry um, patterns. I still had a personality. I still had preference. I still had a like and dislike, and I don't know, you can see I have a personality. I'm colorful, and at the same time, what is the difference is I feel I perceive reality, others, and myself differently. And it took me a while to draft this because I thought that there was no more ego, but at the same time, I didn't felt. I mean, there's different phase. I feel now that it's been like over a decade that I'm done with this journey. I feel different, but at the beginning, I really felt like, oh, there's no more ego. I really thought that I was above everyone, but then eventually, the spiritual ego shape itself with all my practices, with all my spiritual knowledge I gained, and but I still felt that I was seeing reality differently than before. And it's only many years later that I say, oh, I'm still dragging this ego, um, and using it, but it's not blinding me like it was before. And so I feel I'm using it in a way that a a comedian can impersonate a character. So, say for instance, before I feel that if I would be more easily shamed or I would be more easily triggered, I had more trauma, baggage for which I would be reactive. I remember I had my first fiance. I had two fiancés, one in between 2008 and 2012. So we were 4 years together. And she was an angel. She was an angel. She never see any problem in anything. And because of my upbringing as an Asian immigrant, my parents loved me, but there was only one way to do everything. And if not, then you were screamed at, and then you have to rectify. And I can see it the way my sister raised her kids, and the dynamic is still there. And that obviously comes from the way my parents were brought up, meaning that you have to do the way your parents tells you, and if not, you get scolded. And so when my first fiance was German. She was amazing, super quiet, kind of inward, and I knew that there was no problem, but I couldn't stop myself based on my conditioning, based on my upbringing, to realize that there was so many irritation. For instance, she would wash the dishes, and then the sink around would be wet, or like so little tiny thing, and then just not cleaning up the surface. I don't know, kind of stuff that I've learned throughout the years because I've been helping in a house since I was 5 years old, and then being part of shore of helping the family to do shore is an Asian thing. And I don't know if she was brought up or like this, or if her mom was doing most of the shore, and she was doing her best. But the problem is that instead of telling her how I would like it to be and explaining her and be patient and kind of like teaching her, I would just bottle up and not share my expectation. And then days later, she would notice that I was distanced, that I was like irritated, but she couldn't figure it out, and I wouldn't be able to digest it to move on. And she could feel energetically that we're off, and then she would just ask like, "Hey, what's happening?" Just gently, innocently, not knowing what. And back then, I would just like burp or puke everything. It's like, yeah, 3 days you didn't do this, and like yesterday you didn't do that, and like she's like, what? It's like, what are you talking about? It's like first I'm talking about stuff that happened literally many days ago, and they were insignificant. She didn't cheat on me. She didn't like break my car or anything that was dramatic. It was really, really tiny little thing, and I would make big thing about it, and then just be emotionally distant. And at the time, I knew somehow that it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself from playing that character. It was too. And the thing is that she would have been open. I would have married her and would have children. We will love each other, and she would have been more than okay to adjust herself, but I was not able to tell her because I knew how insignificant it was. And so I would do it for her, but then I would just bottle up instead of just tell her. And that happened in different scenario in my life. And what I'm trying to express with this is I don't have this kind of. I'm able to speak my emotion now. So it's okay to be triggered because we are all coming from different background, and to also understand that other people have their own wound, trauma, triggers, and to understand where it's coming from. So I'm able 99% of the time, if people are angry at me, even screaming at me, to be able to detach them from the screaming person, to like the to know that the trigger is about them just being sensitive about something I said or did, and not take it personally and not feel emotionally overwhelmed like it's a personal attack, and I can wish it off. But for somehow, relationship seems to be my last nemesis, meaning that I still have a hard time with people who are angry at me, meaning that I'm trying not necessarily to please them, but to not trigger them. Maybe as a people pleaser at first, but also to just create peace. I think I'm a peaceful person, mostly now after this spiritual journey, that I'm able to not act based on my past trauma and past wound, but somehow in the relationship, I haven't been able to not close up as an avoidant when my partner is triggered or pissed off at me. I kind of understand where it's coming from, and I'm trying to. Every time I feel I'm better, more mature emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, every time I feel I encounter a challenge that is overwhelming me, just like the universe slapping me in the face is like, oh, you think you're up there already, and then just put me back spiritually at my place and say, no, you still have work to do. And then here's a new exam. And then, yeah. So, but all this to say is that there's a big difference from being blind and not knowing that you thinking that the problem is outside of you, like a Karen, or like people who believe that the law, if there's a problem when they travel in third world country, and then there's a hole, or there's a problem with the authority, and they think that it's a problem with the society, the culture, because they have expectation that their country or their system of law is better. And so you're identified, we're identified with our upbringing, we're identified with our way of living, and we need vacation, we just feel we need a change, and we enjoy the landscape, the beach, the weather, but then we complain about everything that is uncomfortable, triggering for us. Oh, there's bugs in my 5-star hotel, or there's like, yeah, it's just like, and then we don't have flexibility, and this is just because of conditioning. It's conditioning that creates expectation, and that makes us that makes our trigger. We put the fault of a trigger on other people instead of self, not knowing that, and objectively everything is fine. And so now I sometimes still feel triggered, but either I can speak it calmly to other people. It's like, hey, I don't like smoking. It's like, do you mind to just move away from the dining area? And then try to explain them how I feel. I don't like it. And then most of the time it goes well. And if for any reason it's not okay, then I move place. I'm not thinking that they're against me, or it's like some people are stubborn, some people just want trouble. I'm not identified to my liking or dislike. I just, if I like something, I feel attracted. And if I don't dislike, I'm trying to disconnect myself from those people or those places or those environments. And so I don't have an identity that I have to prove something. I think I still have the capacity to defend myself if somebody would be threatening me or something would be threatening me. And so I think I still have my ego to protect me, but it's not out of control. In the way I often explain it to friends talking about my partner, ex-partner, is that, or other people as well who hasn't control and no control of the ego, is that here it's like a dog. I have my ego unleashed, but I feel it's under my control in a way that if I'm in danger, he's gonna growl or he's gonna attack the person that want to hurt me. But there's a problem when you have a dog at home and you love, say, a woman, and she has her own apartment, and you want to go see her, you love her, and she want to see you, and the dog is attacking you because she's not in control of her ego. You trigger her, it's okay. But then at the end, you choose if you want to connect with the person. And if you don't want to hurt that person, but you're not able to not hurt that person, that means usually that you have no control over your ego. Of course, it's coming from past wound and past trauma that we haven't managed yet. But at the same time, even if there's a lot of love, there's no hope for a peaceful relationship, at least not in the short term. The realization is that we need to learn how the ego or the protector, like, I arrive for a good reason because we're wounded and hurt when we're younger. And usually as we go into teenagerhood, we don't want to be weak. The world is a wild, dangerous place. So the protector comes, and it's good to have a guard dog, a Doberman or a Rottweiler, to protect us from harmful people, douchebag, creeps, and people that we don't want in our life. But at the same time, if we have this dog, is protecting us against the people we don't want, but it is also protecting us or attacking the people we want in our life, then we are the problem because we want those people close to us. They want us in our life, but they cannot come close because they get hurt consistently because we're not in control of our ego, of our protector. And then it's a responsibility as the individual that train. Like if you have a big dog protecting you and it's bigger than that you're able to control it, it's your responsibility to go either to therapy or to healing or to for a dog for a trainer if you're not able to control it. And it's not okay to put the fault and the responsibility on the other person. It's like, yeah, but don't be scared, it's gonna be fine. And every time that they come closer, sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's not fine, and you attack. And then it creates PTSD, meaning that like the people will never feel safe close to you, even if you tell them that yeah, it's gonna be fine, if you're not fully in control, because it's unpredictable, meaning that sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's not fine. And I've experienced that with my last partner where there was no yellow. It's just green, it's okay. And then I cannot tell when it's heated up, either through conversation or something we're doing. And then she fires up right away to red, and then I get attacked. Like a dog's like, oh, you can pet them. It's like, oh, nice little like, and then jump on you and bite you right away. They're a dog like this. They're dangerous, and the owner should muzzle them, put them always on leash, and keep them inside the house or inside the fence. It's the responsibility of the owner to make sure that, I don't know, if you have like a Amazon delivery, you order stuff online and then you know somebody's gonna come and deliver it, even if you're inside, is like you're requesting a service, and the delivery person should feel safe. And so maybe you put a sign, say, hey, don't come closer to here because this dog is dangerous, can attack you. So you have to give warning sign. It's like, stop, this is like, just leave the package here. But you cannot tell people to come close to you and they don't know the level of danger, and then being hurt, and then put the fault on them because they trigger the dog or they trigger you, and then your ego, your protector, attack them. And yeah, a lot of people recognize this, they want to change, but at the same time, it's not intention and desire that change things, it's action. Wanting to lose weight is good, but if you're not going to the gym, if you're not doing physical activity, if you're not changing your diet, you're not getting any healthier. And it's the same thing for the protector. It's the same thing with the dog. It's like, yeah, I know there's a problem, but then your legs are not necessarily lazy. Some people are unequipped, some people are ignorant, some people are, it takes a lot of work to change an old dog. And so sometimes therapy can take years. I feel for me, the spiritual journey was my therapy. So I feel therapy is like fast forward. If you go seek help from a professional, you can fast forward your healing journey x-fold compared to if you're doing it on your own. The same way as if you want to lose weight, gain muscle, and you start just training without supervision on your own at the gym, you might take 10 years to get the same result as if you hire the best professional trainer to support you every day at the gym and to push you and to give you the best plan for your diet, etc. And so help is not always necessary, but it does most of the time if it's the right people fast forward your transformation, your healing process. um, and so without action, just knowing that there's an issue and hoping that we are going to meet the perfect person that's going to accept us with all our wound, our imperfection, it's a disillusion. It's like, I mean, of course, if you have physical imperfection, it's like, yeah, okay, you want to accept, you want to meet someone that can like you as you are. But if you really have trauma response that are harmful for other people who are coming close to your emotion, to your heart, it's not it's not about finding only someone who can accept you with your wounded past, but there's work, a lot of work to be done for you to overcome the negative consequences of those past wounds. And it's not your partner's problem to be your therapist, to be your best friend. A good partner can support you in the process of you getting help, but it's not your partner's responsibility to provide that help for you. A partner is never meant to be your therapist. It's supposed to be a support system for which maybe you didn't have when you grow up. But yeah, so yeah, when we are healed, I think this is for me, it was the most amazing experience. That's, if you followed all my video, that's when I was up in the mountain and I cried for many hours. And then I didn't understand, I didn't understood right away what happened to me back then. And I think this is what happened. I saw in an instant reality differently. And that I couldn't grasp right away. I couldn't frame it into words. Like if you have an orgasm for the first time and you were not educated to know what an orgasm is, so you just experience something, you know it's different, you feel amazing or you feel mind blown, but you don't know what it was. And so after the spiritual journey, I went eventually down the mountain and started expressing myself, but it's really reading spiritual book, hundreds of them, that help me to understand more. Like the same way as if you had an orgasm and eventually you read tantric book or book about sexuality and you understand, oh, it was an orgasm. That's what it is. And so, yeah, the knowledge, theoretical knowledge and the experience together is like, oh, I understand what happened to me. And so this knowledge allowed me to understand, didn't allow me to understand, I could perceive everything differently already from this experience that happened up in a mountain. And then and then I think I already talked about it. Knowledge, all those round thing fall down, all my knowledge fall down, and by the time I finished crying, I didn't get back lucidity. My knowledge connected itself in my brain, and monkey mind eventually came back, but I understood everything differently. So with the same knowledge, I understood everything differently. And then eventually, I still had the ego, but it was not blinding me anymore. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say about it. I understand some people. I haven't spoke like this face to face with people. I feel that if I would have listened to this, if I would have listened to a dialogue similar to what I'm sharing now from somebody else when I was me before, I would feel this person is somehow arrogant or disillusioned or anything but something positive. And so even the book, I've never made promotion. I share it with a few friends, but I never market it. If you're interested, it's right here. There's a website where you can see a glimpse of it or you can buy it. And but now it's been 6 years, 7 years that it's published, and I feel somehow that I'm hiding. Also, I'm hiding behind confrontation instead of embracing my reality, and that's why I feel I want to start talking about it more. Either it work with this channel or it doesn't. I feel it's my mission not just to share, but to impersonate this reality that is different within myself, and hopefully, for the one ready, it resonate with you. All right, 30 minute. Um, Let me know. I think it could be confusing if you had your own awakening, and this really like mind blow your own experience, but you never like visualize it, but it's exactly what you feel, or you have you had your own realization, and for you it's totally different. I would like to hear about it, and maybe I could correct. I'm not 100% sure if today this is how it's in, but this is how I described it 10 plus years ago. And yeah, if you have questions, and feel free. And if you've watched few video, for me, it's always been a parameter when I watch YouTube video, either for entertainment, for learning. If I have watched 3 of them, then it's usually signs like I'm getting benefit from those video. Therefore, I'm gonna do the little I can to help this creator and subscribe. So subscribe if you've watched a few video and you feel connected to receive more of this information. Thank you.